Okay, so what we're going to kind of do today is I want to show you how to make a spreadsheet using page or sheet one to do all your data entry, and then using like sheet two and sheet three to kind of spread that information on sheet one to kind of spread it out and narrow it down for you. So in case you want to know just about a particular project or anything like that, however you decide to use this spreadsheet, it would be easy for you to go and reconcile just parts of what you're wanting to know. So in order to make sense of that, let's just kind of get started. One of the things I want to show or kind of bring out is that, a lot of the options that we have to work with on Excel are pretty much the same options that we have to work on Word. So not a whole bunch of differences, but some a little more unique because we are using formulas and things like that. Um, so what I've decided to work on is a registrar uh, of the programs we're doing throughout the year. What we decided was we'd like to keep something on the computer that we can get to quickly or a little more easily, so that when we want to know, okay, who all participated in the county food show, who participated in district food show, that we could have easy access to a list without having to go through 4-H Connect and having to pull a report. And sometimes those reports aren't that accurate, I've kind of noticed. So we wanted to come up with something where we could put the kids' names in, be able to mark what they've been participating in, and then that way, if we decide we want to pull uh, just a worksheet that shows who all participated in County Food Show, that we could have that as well. So what we're going to start with is, before you can start anything, you need to know whether you're going to want your spreadsheet in portrait or landscape. And for what we're doing today, I'm going to use landscape. So you go to page layout, do your orientation, and do landscape. So the first thing I want to do is make you want to have a title for anything you create. So that way, if you print it out, people will know what you're looking at. So my first thing would be to highlight the whole top row. And I'm going to keep everything within these lines because those lines are your margins showing up to what point you can print. So anything beyond this will be printed like on a separate sheet. So you don't want to overlap anything. You also don't want to bring anything down here because it won't print together. It'll be separate. So basically this is your sheet of paper and this is what you're going to see when you print. So anything outside of that, So my first thing would be to make my title. And so I would highlight the whole first line and go to your home tab and do merge and center. Merge and center is basically saying that you're going to get all of those cells and you're making them into one big cell. And you're also, when you push merge and center, you're telling it you want the title to be centered. So that's what merge and center is. So then you go back in there and you can put in the title of your page. And then you kind of want to, whenever I'm going to make a spreadsheet like this, I always have everything written down ahead of time. I kind of make an outline, a drawing of what I know I'm going to want so that I know how many columns I need. I know how many rows I'm going to need. I know how big each column needs to be. In this case, the biggest column I'm going to need is going to be for the names. And so I'm going to highlight these three cells and make them into one. Again, I'm going to do the merge and center. And then I'm going to get my mouse or my cursor and put it right over this corner here, right in here. And when you see the two black lines that cross, you can click on it, left click on it, and you hold it down. And when you pull that down, it basically makes all of these cells the same as that one. And so that's the only one that I know we're going to need to have a little bigger, and that's going to be for each 4-H member's name. Now, to list all your programs, it would just be whatever it is you're wanting to keep up with. In this case, I'm just going to go with County Food Show, and then District Food Show, Nutritional Quiz Bowl, Food Challenge, and just to throw some other ones in there, photography and archery. Okay, and so that I can have a better idea, instead of making all these cells bigger and taking up more room, I kind of think that it'd be better to slant these letters. So again, I'm going to highlight them all, whatever I want. And by highlighting these as well, if you add on later on, it automatically will slant those, you know, as well. So you know that you've got that on there. So I would highlight those, all of those, and then right up here where it says alignment, go up to angle counterclockwise. And so then you could have your letters would be actually slanted the way you'd like. And you can then come up here to where the letters are and spread those columns out a little bit to where you think you'd want them. I kind of like to know where my lines are at all times. It just makes it easier to stay kind of organized with it. And so if I don't see my lines, it kind of drives me batty, but that's just me. So, okay, now that I've got all my programs in and I've got the name in, I would go back and highlight. Okay, now here's a problem, because what, you know, exactly what we were talking about is not having anything overlap. You want to make sure you're not doing that. So I would delete that column and then do it again. And so then this should continue to be end right in here. So now the next thing to do is I would like to have lines probably around everything, all of my boxes, so that I know everything is separated. And so basically I just came up here to this little box here, pushed my arrow, and I did all borders. So that automatically puts borders on everything. The next thing I would do is bold my letters. I do think bold is nicer when you've got titles or your main headings. I believe these letters are good size. I think these need to be a little bigger. So I'd come up here and make them, you know, say what, 14. That'd be a little bit better. And then we're gonna go on and I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I do. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep it isolated to one page. We're gonna go ahead and insert some names. I started off with last names, but we're good. We can just drop it there. Okay, so what I'm going to recommend Courtney and Gary do is if they want to come in here and, you know, after County Food Show and she's reconciling all her, you know, all participation, if she wants to come in and say, okay, Angel did County Food Show, Selena did County Food Show, Judy and Libby did. And then after District Food Show, she might say, well, the same people did the same thing. You know, Nutritional Quiz Bowl may be Angel, Cyrus, and Selena. And then Food Challenge might be Judy, Libby, and Carl. Photography would be Angel, Selena, and Carl. And archery may be just Selena. And so then you get your numbers, or you get your ones in there. And so we're basically done with inputting information here. The next thing would be, okay, if you're wanting, and if, of course, if you're only doing something in this with this amount of information, the rest of this would not seem important. But if you're, just to kind of show you how to use this, if you were going to use it for something, like my thought is to maybe make something like this with all of my producers in my area and keep up with when they come to the Southern Mesa Ag Conference, when they come to the Dawson County Ag Tour, any meetings that we come to that they're going to get CEUs. It would help me to have their names on a sheet like this so that I can reference back and say, yes, I do show you were there. And then I know to pull a folder of Southern Mesa Ag Conference 2015, or and know that his name will be on that registration form, um, instead of having to go pull it, not knowing which year he might have been here. So that would be a larger, or a bigger amount of, a larger amount of people, and so that's where this would kind of come into play. But we're just kind of playing with it right now for just a little bit. So the next thing I'd want to do is come down here to sheet 2 and click on that. And again, like I said, I always like to have a title of what I'm looking at. So I'm going to do Emergent Center on the first 3. And here I'm going to do County Food Show. And the good thing about it is once you've got one page set up, the rest of the pages kind of make it easy because you can just do a copy and paste. It's actually really, really easy. So again, once you have that, you might want to bold it, make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to put name here. So merge and center, I'm going to put in name. And then again, highlight those 3, merge and center. I'm going to go ahead and pull down to about 37. That gives us enough room for 37 kids. So the way that we want to set this up is we want it to say, okay, we want names of the kids who only showed at County Food Show. And so you're going to reference back to sheet 1. And this is where formulas come into play. If you're familiar with formulas, it's easier for you to type it in yourself. If you're not, they have the insert function here. And so in this case, we might put in the if. And so what we want to tell it is if sheet 1 D3, and what that means is if on sheet 1, the first page, and we're looking at D, number 3, again, it's on the first page, if it is greater than 0, which means if there is a number, then we want that name. And then you're going to tell it, if the value is true, what do you want it to be? And so that's where your formula will come in, and you'll tell, this is, you have to, basically, this first line is telling it, if this has happened, if D3 is greater than 0, this is what happens if it's true. This is what will happen if it's not true. Okay, so now what we're saying is if D3 is greater than 0, what do we want to see happen if it's true? If there's a 1 showing somebody went to County Food Show, what are we wanting? Well, we are wanting the name on sheet 1 to be displayed here. And so just because I do know what it is, that is going to be again on sheet 1, A3. This tells you what that answer is. So what you're telling it is, If it's greater than 0, you want this name to be displayed, whatever is on A3. You're also going to tell it if there is no 1 in that column, then you want it to remain blank. So I put quotes, a space, and quotes, and that tells you that you're going to have a blank space there. All you do is push OK, and Angel should appear there. And so you're telling it that you want that to be done for D3, D4, D5, D6, all the way down into the bottom of the list. And so in order to do that, instead of having to type that in for every cell, all you have to do again is go up to the little corner there, left click and hold down, and you can pull that formula down, and it is going to, let me try that again, it's going to fill in all of those formula, it's going to fill in the formula all the way down. And so there you see that Angel, Selena, Judy, and Libby are the ones that have done County Food Show. And what I find is to be also helpful is once you have that done, you want to set up a filter, because if you have 100 people that you're trying to figure out, you don't want that all these people in the middle did nothing and then all these people down here did something, and you don't have the names together. So what you're wanting is to collapse this so that when you're ready to see just the names for a County Food Show, you can just have the list all together. So I'm gonna kind of show you that right now. And what that's called is a filter. And what you would do is come up here to the top where it says data, and you grab a filter. Let me kind of go up here a little bit. Well, it's not letting me. Oh, we've got to put in, I'm sorry, we have to put in a formula first. Okay, so now basically you're going to tell it the same thing you're telling it here. And so what you're going to do is ask it if D3, again, we're doing the same thing, the same formula, and we can go back and use the insert function and do if, and again, we're going to say sheet 1, D3, if that is greater than 0, this is what we're wanting it to do. We want it to say true, and if not, then we're wanting it to say false. Okay, let me go back. Sorry, got ahead of myself. If sheet 1, D3 is greater than 0, we want it to say true. If not, we want it to say false. So sheet 1, D3 is in fact greater than 0. So it's true. And again, you grab that corner and you drag it down. You're going to have the same results. You know, false, true, true, true. And then you're going to come up here. And like I said, now if you had, you know what, I wonder if we can do that here. Okay, so in working with this, I just found something out. I just taught myself something. What I went ahead and did is I went ahead and filled in all the names, just put random numbers in there so we could have some data. So when you go back over here and you're wanting to collapse that list, you can actually use a filter, and I would say start with the first name, and you go up to the filter, and then well, first we've got to spread this formula all the way down, so let's do that first. So again, you remember I told you you can get this corner, pull all the way down, and make sure that the formula is all the way through from the top to the bottom. Then you go back, and this is what I was talking about. If you have a name way down here, and say there was a big gap in between, and you have 100 people, you know you don't want to have to be scrolling through all of that. So then you could go to the first name, and you could put a filter on it. And that filter, you could click this little arrow and you'd go down to the bottom and say you want to take out all of the blanks and push OK. And that would be your list of names for people who participated in the county food show. And so then you could title this page down here, and we would call it County Food Show. Sheet 3, it would be District Food Show. And so we're going to, again, we're going to do the same thing, merge and center those three. We're going to call it District Food Show. And again, I'm going to put merge and center. We're going to call this name. And again, merge and center so that we can put our names in there. They'll fit. And again, pulling down, making sure that it goes all the way through. I don't even know what number it goes through because I wasn't paying attention. So we can go in there. Again, what we're going to want to do here is bring that, again, you'll have to reference back and say, okay, now District Food Show is, and it highlights it for you. So you're going to say E3. Now you're going to have the same formula E3 is greater than 0. You're going to want it to do let's see if this works, because if not, we'll have to do it the other way. That's right, that worked. Okay, so then again, you'll grab the corner, because now you've got your formula set. You'll pull all the way down. We're just going to go to 40 because I'm not even sure where those numbers go. And one thing we didn't do was I did not tell it what I wanted it to do if it was false. So what I'm going to do is go in here and just add in quotes, a space, and quotes, and then we'll pull that again so that it'll make it blanks instead of seeing false all through there. And again, you'd go up to District Food Show, Data, do your filter, and then say I want everything except name and blanks. You could keep names if you wanted to, I guess. And that would be your list for all your names. And then down here, you would right click and rename and say District Food Show. And that is all you're doing. You could even, and the funny thing about this is that if you wanted to, you could even keep up with how much money they have each spent. You know, I mean, I'm not even sure what each of these costs, but I'm just going to say like $10 for each one. We're just going to pretend it's $10 for each one. So after you've made all your sheets for everything else that you've done throughout the year, here at the very end, you may want a sheet that says, let's see, we'll just do merge and center. We'll say total amounts used per child. If you wanted, for some reason, you felt that we needed to keep, if you needed to keep up with that, we could do a merge and center there. Again, it'll be the name of that child. Merge and center again. And let's just go down. I know there's a lot of people that like to do the bookkeeping and whatnot, so that's a good deal to put in there. And the way I would probably do this one is make this one equal to sheet 1A3. And then I would pull that all the way down to wherever I need to go down. And just so you know, if later on you were going to add more, or you had more people enroll, so you were going to have to add them, all you have to do is go to the last one and continue pulling that formula down, and it'll do it for you. So okay, and so what I would probably do is just have that this is going to equal the sum of whatever each program was that they participated in, the total amount of programs times 10, or you can always set it up as, if you come back over here, you might do something like, okay, you're going to equal the sum of these. You might say, let's just say that was all the programs we had. So then you go back to sheet 8, and that is, okay, times 10 if each program was $10. That didn't work. I'm going to say D3 through I3. And I'm more than willing to bet this may have to be closed. This will have to be open. Or not. Oh, it has sheet 8. We need sheet 1. No? That's probably how you would do it. But even then, it's only times 10. It should be more than $10. She did four different programs. And so let's go back. Sheet 1, D3 through I3 times 10. And it should have been I'm not exactly sure why it's not adding it up. I think I figured out what the problem is you have to add up each of these, which would be D3 plus E3 plus F3 plus G3 plus H3 plus I3, and then you would multiply that by 10. That would be my assumption. Okay, so I was taking a break making sure that this was looking right, and apparently we need to put in the sheet 1 on each individual letter. Okay, so I'm thinking that this is right. So then we would close those and then put open parentheses, and then you'd close those same parentheses again. And I believe that that should work. Found a small error. Now this is what I like, that sometimes when you do have an error, it can fix the problem for you. And so this time I forgot to put the multiplication symbol in between these two. So it's telling me it needed it. I'm telling it, yes, please, I want to accept that correction. So I put yes, and the amount is 40. Again, once you get through that whole process one time, then all you have to do is pull down all the way through. And so You also always want to make sure you check it. You've got Larry and Olivia showing they did nothing. To be sure that that's right, I would go back and make sure there was nothing on those rows. And we are correct. So at the end of the year, if you wanted to say, okay, this is what we spent for each kid to go to these programs, how much money did we spend just paying for them to go to contests or things like that, then you could go back and just sum it up and say, okay, we spent $540. This is good for us secretaries that when we have to do our budget for the bank statements, and a lot of times they want to know how much it was spent, what was spent where and things like that. And this is a good way to keep up with the total of what we're spending in contest fees. So that's something that I might utilize myself. And so again, if your agent says, I need a list of just the people that went to County Food Show, then you could go in there, put blanks, take off blanks, and you could print that out, and they'd have their list of names of the people that went to County Food Show. Same thing for District Food Show. And again, you would want to take out your blanks, and use your filters for that. And there you'd have it. And so you would eliminate all the spacing in between, and they'd have their list. And this is good. Like I said, once you get the hang of putting those formulas in, and you can always reference back, say, okay, this was D3, and you can kind of look at it, and okay, this one was E3, so you already know that's going to be F3, this is going to be G3, H3. It's repetitive. And so then you can use a lot of that to use that information to narrow down what you're wanting to find out. And again, like I said, there's a lot of things you can do here if you want to. Like I said, I really like this. I didn't even think about that until just now when I was thinking about what all you could utilize that information for, and that's a good idea. And if you could even make the same kind of sheet that does, donations. How much did we get from this and how much did we get from that? What was spent for, or what was the donations for, only for the banquet? What donations did we get only for certain programs or things like that? That there's just a lot of ways to utilize, but your main entry is going to come from here. So, it's $540, but if we were to change these numbers up, and then we go ahead and include Larry, and we go ahead and include Olivia, your numbers are going to change. One thing to remember is that after you have done that, you always want to go back, put your blanks back in, and then go back and take your blanks back out. If you make any changes on your front page, make sure you go back and redo your filters so that you can include Larry. And then when you get to that ending page, you now spent $600 instead of $540. And so this is what I think is very interesting, because I want to show you what my spreadsheet for the Jackpot Show looks like, because I think that that's probably where I spent a lot of time setting that up. And let me pull that up for y'all. This is my spreadsheet for the Jackpot Show. And just to kind of give you an idea, we had our names, we had the name, the entries, the lamb, show A, show B, goat show A, goat B, goat show B. Here I had it to where it tallied up how much we owed, how much this person owed. So if they had 4 entries, and this automatically had a formula if I change this to 2, they owed $50. But it was 4. I also made it to where if they, I'm just going to change her numbers really quick. We're just going to go ahead and say she had 0. But if she had said, we have 3 entries, one is for show A for lambs, one is show B for lambs, I made it to where automatically the last entry is for goat B. Unless I would have put it here, then goat B would have been 0. So it's a count. It kind of let me check, because if she says we have 4 entries, 2 there and 1 there, and I say okay, so your last one would be in goat show B, and they say no, we wanted it in show A, then I know I need to, we need to figure out what happened. Or if she says she has 4 entries but she's only got 3 and she doesn't want anything in goat B, it's kind of a check and balance. But if she puts too many, well, then we know there's a problem there as well. And so then I could automatically, all I had to do was put in their entries and in what shows they were putting them in, and that gave me their total, and then I would know if they were paying or not. The rest of these is basically like your South Downs, your fine wools, your fine wool cross, medium wool cross over here, I think. No, just medium wool, my bad. Okay, and so when they started bringing me their weight cards, let's just go ahead and say Creed Orem, and she brought me her weight cards for 4 animals, and I went ahead and put their weights under the appropriate entries. Her first entry was this one, her second entry was this one. For show B, this was her first and this was her second. And then of course you had the ones that were like this. You have 6 entries, 3 for show A and 3 for show B. And when she brought me her weight cards, they were in. So there was, I just put their weights in. Like I said, your main front sheet is going to be all your data entry. So now, Gary comes to me and says, I need all the fine wool for show A. Then I would come down here and find fine wool for show A. I would take out my falses and find that it was only Macy Thurman, but it doesn't show a weight. So then you'd have to figure out, and that's the problem with some of these, is that you will have those that have something on them. Of course, like I said, this may actually be a good thing that I just found, because I'm realizing after I worked on that other one that we might actually not have to use the false and trues or true and false questions on it. But I might be able to, I want to take out all the zeros. And so I end up with only Ashley Duran. And if I go back and put in the zeros, I'm going to double check to make sure that that is all I saw. It's Ashley Duran. And so that would be right. So I'm thinking that's going to actually help me out a lot this year. And like I said, I just learned that. And so there you go. Now I can say all you have is one, and her name's Ashley Duran. If he needs medium wool lamb B, well, we'll put a filter on it. We're going to want to take out all your zeros and say okay. And that should have done it. Let's see. So, like in everything else, there's always those issues that they didn't work out. So I'm just going to put everything back, and I'm just going to come back over here and do my filter here. And I'm just going to take out all the falses. And so even though that leaves, you know, two of them there, that's fine. And there's two there. We can kind of narrow down who we need to get rid of and who we need to keep. um, it's just funny how it's not working for this one, but it was working for the other one. And we want to take out the zeros. And we say okay, and it's still leaving the zeros. So that's something I'm going to have to look at. Definitely a problem if we can't figure out who's in and who's out. Okay, let's use a different one until I can fix that one. But again, the way I was doing it before was just doing a true. If B3, which is this one, was greater than 0, then it was true. And then I would just do my filter there and take out my falses, and you have your list. And as I learned just a while ago, that's not the case all the time. It's not going to work like that all the time. If you put a filter on this, we want to take out the zeros, and it worked for this one. So there's obviously a problem with the other one. Same thing here. So, you know, it's like I said, it's just whatever you're putting in here, you're spreading it out through the rest of this, you know, sheet. And at the end, you know, you end up with everything you're needing to know about your entries or whatever data you're putting into your program and stuff. So just something to think about. You can use it for different stuff. Macros makes it different. I'm not going to say. So anyway, with that being said, that is basically what I wanted to show y'all is how you can utilize Excel to do these kinds of things. And I've made plenty of notes. I tried to do the best I could to get you pictures of what we did and kind of remind you, you know, what you're using as D3, E3, how you're adding those up, and how you use your filters. And so I'm hoping that all that will help you. Do y'all have any questions?